small boats. There were other boats. You see, as a child of God, when you are going across the other side, you have to remember you are taking others with you. You are not the most important item. You are not the biggest thing on earth. You or I. I am not the all-important item. It is because of the other boats that this boat got into trouble. So when Jesus calmed the sea, all the boats were safe. So when you get on a plane, നിങ്ങൾ പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കണം. You see, when God, if you are on an assignment and you know you are going across, നിങ്ങളുടെ കൂടെ ഉള്ള യാത്രക്കാരും safe. അതല്ലേ പൗലോസിന്റെ കപ്പൽ യാത്ര. പൗലോസിന്റെ കപ്പൽ യാത്ര, nothing happened to any of the passengers because God came to save Paul, and with Paul, he promised everybody around him, not only I, but all of you. When Jesus did the miracle of breaking the bread, അവിടെ ആ ശിഷ്യന്മാർ മാത്രമായിരുന്നു ഇരുന്നേ? ക്രിസ്ത്യാനികൾ മാത്രമായിരുന്നോ? You see, everybody else was there. അവിടെ ആരെല്ലാം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നെന്ന് നമുക്കറിയത്തില്ല. പക്ഷെങ്കിൽ he was not only interested in feeding the disciples. He was interested in feeding everybody. Acts 16. Apostle Pravarti 16 അവിടെ എടുക്കണ്ട, but the reference you can go and see there. അവിടെ പൗലോസും സീലാസും പാട്ട് പാടിയപ്പോഴ് ചങ്ങല പൊട്ടി. ആന്നോ ഇല്ലയോ? പക്ഷെ അവിടെ എഴുതിയിരിക്കുന്ന എന്തുവാ? അവരുടേത് മാത്രമാണോ? എല്ലാവരുടെയും ചങ്ങല പൊട്ടി. See, we are interested, എന്ത് ബന്ധനവും എൻ്റെ ശാപം എല്ലാം നീങ്ങിപ്പോയാൽ I'm okay. No, it's not like that. See, എന്നെ അവിടെ നട്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് കവിയൂർ ദേശത്താണ്. ആ കവിയൂർ ദേശത്തില് എന്നെ ദൈവം അവൻ്റെ പൊൻകരത്താൽ എന്നെ വഹിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് നടക്കുമ്പോൾ he is taking care of the whole കവിയൂർ. കവിയൂരിൽ കൊടുങ്കാറ്റ് അടിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ അതിൻ്റെ നടുക്ക് ഞാൻ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ the whole of Kaviyur is safe. Not only me. എൻ്റെ വീട്ടിൽ കാറ്റടിച്ചില്ലെങ്കിൽ, എൻ്റെ വാഴയ്ക്ക് കുഴപ്പമില്ലെങ്കിൽ, എൻ്റെ തെങ്ങിന് കുഴപ്പമില്ലെങ്കിൽ, എൻ്റെ അയൽവാസിയുടെ വാഴയും തെങ്ങും സേഫ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ ഈ ലോകം നശിക്കുന്നു 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 എന്ന് പറയും. ഈ നശിക്കുന്ന ലോകത്തിന്റെ ഇടയിൽ നമ്മളെ വെളിച്ചങ്ങളായിട്ട് വെച്ചിരിക്കുന്നതിന്റെ കാരണം എന്നാ? Why? You see, if God has an assignment on your life, America cannot be destroyed. ആ ഉറപ്പ് വേണം. ഉറപ്പ് വേണം. As long as I am in America, America will not be destroyed because God will come for me and I have to complete my assignment. അങ്ങനെ ഓരോ മർത്തമക്കാരും പറഞ്ഞാൽ you don't have to be afraid of what 2015 is going to bring. I told you, you don't have to read in advance what's going to happen. But if you can say, Lord, I thank you, my assignment is not complete. Lord, I thank you so much. Because of me, Lord, because you love me so much, Lord, America will be saved. ആ ഉറപ്പ് എനിക്കുണ്ട്. I know as long as I'm here, until I finish your program, nothing is going to happen to Houston. Nothing will. അത്രയ്ക്ക് ഉറപ്പ് എനിക്കുണ്ട്. And I'm going to pray for Houston and I will cover Houston. Because, you know, God didn't bring me here by accident. I was not even supposed to be here. And then I realized, I will pray and release the word for America, for Houston, and for all our people. Because I don't know what 2015 is going to bring. But I'm going to pray that God has an assignment for all of you. And we can release the word. And you all have to make it to the other side. And so you have to be a blessing. You might be the only Christian in your community. You might be the only Christian in your workplace. You might be the only place. You might be the only person in the place where you are, work of place, wherever. ആ സമയത്ത് ഒരു കാറ്റടിക്കുന്നു അല്ലെങ്കിൽ something is going to happen or you know a crisis or emergency situation is happening. If you scream and shout, what hope has the others got? What hope has the others? അതേ സമയത്ത് ഏത് ക്രൈസിസിന്റെ മധ്യേ if you are so calm and collected because you know Jesus on the inside of you is not finished with you, others will have confidence, you know, they will come around you. It happened to me once when I was taking a boat, a ferry from Malaysia, Johor Bahru near Singapore, from Singapore to Indonesia, the most dangerous water. I didn't tell anybody that I was on that ferry. I didn't tell any of my families, but I was caught in a storm. And this boat, you know, it was rocking, it was like a cradle. And I thought, you know, I better let my family know, ask them to pray. But instead of praying, they were screaming at me through the text messages, what are you doing? You know, and they were saying how crazy I was and how could you take that? And 2 weeks ago in that place was, you know, a ferry drowned, and they were giving me all these gory stories. All I wanted them was to pray for me. And so they were adding, you know, more to, you know. And then I thought, this is it. So surrounding me were Hindus and Muslim women. And one of them said, you know, sister, we are going to die. I said, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to die, and this boat is not going to sink with me. അങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞപ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് എന്തുവാ ഈ ഹിന്ദു മുസ്ലിം എല്ലാം കയറി എന്നെ അങ്ങ് കെട്ടിപ്പിടിക്കുക. We landed safely. എന്നിട്ട് ഞാൻ അവരോട് പറഞ്ഞു, this is my Jesus brought us safely. See, ഒരു സാക്ഷ്യം വേണം. And so this is why I said to you, so let's go to Mark chapter 6, and I'm going to show you something. Mark chapter 6. So Mark chapter 4, what you have to notice is you have to underline that there were other boats, which is very, very important. Now let's go to Mark chapter 6 and read verse 52. Now this is the incident where Jesus walked on the water, and you know the disciples was caught in a storm, and Jesus was not in the boat, but he was on the water, and you know and Jesus gets into the boat later. But then 52, verse 52. I'm going to show you two things that prevents us from going to the other side. Verse 52, for they had not understood about the loaves, their hearts were hardened. Now, in Mark chapter 4, Verse 40, we are going to compare these two. Verse 40, he said to his disciples, why are you so afraid? So Mark 4:40, why are you so afraid? And Mark 6:52, their hearts were hardened. Now, when you are fearful and when your heart is hardened, the word of God cannot operate in your life. Fear hinders. Fear is a blocker. It blocks the word from operating. And Satan, the author of fear and darkness, and the source of hardening people's heart, doesn't want you to bear fruit, and at all cost, he will try and stop you from getting on the other side. He will stop you from going to the other side. Because when you get to the other side, something will always happen. Now here it says, for the hardening of the loaves, they did not understand. The hardening of the, because they couldn't understand, they didn't understand about the loaves, their hearts were hardened. Now what loaves was he talking about? What loaves? So what took place just before this? The miracle of feeding the 5,000 people. And this is where he is displaying, I'm the bread of life. He is the bread of life. This book is our daily bread, and this is a bread of life. So he is demonstrating his power, and he's also demonstrating, it's in all the Gospels, and he is the bread of life. Now he has just broken bread. He gave thanks, he broke bread, and what happened? 44, verse 44, chapter 6, verse 44, the number of men who had eaten were 5,000. Now just before that, 43, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of bread and fish. So there was a surplus, and they had 12 baskets full. Now, I have heard so many sermons about what happened to the 12 basket. കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടോ? ഈ 12 കൊട്ട. എവിടെ പോയെന്നും ആര് കൊണ്ടുപോയെന്നും ചിലർ പറഞ്ഞു എന്താണ്? Disciples took it home and അത് നമ്മുടെ സ്വഭാവമല്ലേ ഈ പറയുന്നേ? ആർക്കും കൊടുക്കാതെ അങ്ങ് പിന്നെ then he said, കൊച്ചു ബാലൻ കൊണ്ടുപോയി, all this, so there were 3 versions ഉണ്ട്, and every one of it could be right. പക്ഷെങ്കിൽ this is what I think happened. I can't prove it, but then you can't prove me wrong either. The 12 baskets was in that boat. That should have been a reminder of the miracle he just did earlier. So when the storm came, they had a visual aid with them. So even when they have seen, which means they have seen this 12 basket, they picked it up themselves, isn't it? അവരല്ലേ അത് gather ചെയ്തത്? ആണോ ഇല്ലയോ? വേറെ ആരും അല്ലല്ലോ? They gathered, right? And they filled it up. So they were doing everything. അതെല്ലാം preparation ആയിരുന്നു for the next storm. You see, what you have to remember is, before a storm comes, you will get the word. Before the storm comes, you will get the word. Now, Mark chapter 4, ഇന്നലെ ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളെ ഓർപ്പിച്ചു. Mark chapter 4, the storm came after what? ഇന്നലെ ആരെങ്കിലും പ്രസംഗം കേട്ടായിരുന്നോ? I said a very important thing. What happened? You know, the storm came after something. എന്തായിരുന്നു? After the parable of the sower, isn't it? Didn't Jesus give them the word? He was teaching them the word. He was telling them, he was talking about the 4 soils, the 4 different soils, which soil will be productive and the 3 unproductive soil, and the reason for it. അവരെ ഒരുക്കുവായിരുന്നു. So when Jesus said, let's go to the other side, Satan doesn't want that the word that they heard, the lesson that they heard, to be fruitful. Because, you know, വചനം നമ്മുടെ ആത്മാവിൽ ഉളവായാൽ what will happen? We will become very dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. If we are bearing fruit. ഇത് കളർ മാറിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണല്ലോ. Thank you so much. You know, you all are very kind. Very, very kind. So what is going to happen? What's going to happen? I'm warning you. What is a warning? ഞാൻ എന്തിനാ ഇത് പറയുന്നേ? വചനം നിമിത്തം നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കാറ്റടിക്കും. അതുകൊണ്ട് നാളെ വരണോ വേണ്ടായോ എന്ന് നിങ്ങൾ തീരുമാനിക്കുക. Because God's, you know, Jesus said, because of the word, because of the cares of